Welcome, Warriors, back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2. I'm on the road, and I figured I'd make another video. So if you guys are on your purpose, on your plan, hope you guys are kind of staying with what you're doing and not getting caught with temptation. It's all around you. I've had it several times today already that you have to kind of be careful of the vampires and succubuses running around, because they kind of sense your energy. They sense something inside of you, and they kind of want to be near that. They want to be something that around you. So, and this kind of goes into the topic we're going to talk about a little bit today. And the topic, once again, was given to me by some of my students, kind of focusing on the idea of ignoring. Now, we did that, and we mentioned it in another video, but I wanted to kind of emphasize and talk about this idea, which is becoming more popular all the time, especially in the newer dating scene that we're seeing. And part of it, from what people have told me, and obviously being married for 30 years, I'm not really in the dating scene, but I do hear stories and know what people are doing and what they're saying. And I just had a discussion with some students a few minutes ago, too, about the whole idea. And interesting enough, you're seeing more and more young people thinking about this idea of picking the right partner and making sure that they have, celibacy is also something they're mentioning. So I think that's very fascinating. It's good to see that, because I think people then are kind of making better choices. And I think, guys, that's the whole key to it. You don't want to run around all day long focusing on that. And I know I've had some questions also about the dangers of retention and things like that, and I have not really seen a lot. I mean, yes, there's times when you end up having a little more energy, but you need to kind of dissipate that. You need to find things to do, and you can do that, and perhaps I'll do another video on that. But the idea, guys, that we're talking about here is that you want to make sure that, especially the younger people who are looking for people, looking for partners, looking for people to be in relationships with, and finding those kind of people. And the key, guys, is no matter if it's a business partner or a romantic partner, find people who are going to make you better. And that's the key to it. Don't hang on to people because you're desperate, or you feel like you can't make friends. There's always going to be people out there, males and females, are going to be friends of yours. There's going to be people out there that are always going to have relationships with you. And the key is going to be, do you find people that give you some things that make your life better? Now, let's look at this in a sense of really understanding what we're talking about here. If we're talking about relationships, you have to make sure that this person you're with, no matter how good looking they are, they provide more to you than just that intimacy. Because when you're on retention, the intimacy changes. You're not releasing anymore. Now, you could still theoretically, have intimate sessions, but you're just not releasing. And that's a very difficult thing for most people to do. So when you look at that kind of thing, you have to make some kind of idea whether or not you're focusing on that retention, or you're focusing on a longer picture with the person. Now, I would hope that the retention is going to help you pick out people that you're going to have more long-term relationships with. And that can kind of determine whether or not you're going to spend a lot of years with the person, or you're just going to be friends with the person. Now, one of the aspects of that is the fact that we know people like to test each other out. Now, testing may be conscious. A lot of times it's more subconscious. But it's kind of more of a case of, do people have their own life beyond the relationship you have? You might be making money with a business partner, but you have your own life. You might be married like I am for 20 years, 30 years. You're married for almost 30 years, you still have your own hobbies and likes and things you're doing, right? No matter if I'm married or not. And my wife has her own likes and things like that. It's very important for you to create that when you're younger. I've had a lot of these type of things. One of my hobbies is to make money, right? One of my hobbies has been the train set, right? I have those electric football men that I've had for years, right? I collect comic books and I use those in investments, right? Those type of things are all hobbies that I've had since I was, I don't know, 10, 12 years old, some of them. But you don't change that. You don't change who you are. And I think that's the key to it. So when I talk about relationships with people, I think it's important for you to be on your purpose, be on your plan, so as you communicate to people, remember our 3 C's, right? Control, confidence, and communication. You're now going to have that level of confidence to be able to communicate effectively with a person. So, let's go back to the idea of ignoring. Now, ignoring is not something that, if you take it in its sense literally, you're talking about just avoiding the person. Now, why is that a strength to say? Well, the strength comes in the fact that whether you do it on purpose or not, the fact that you're involved with yourself and a lot of other things going on, and not to a narcissistic level, of course, but the fact that you're involved in your goals and doing your own thing will create some ignoring patterns. You're not going to be focusing on that person. In this case, if you're a man, you're not going to be focusing on that woman. You're going to focus on your own lifestyle and getting the things done you need to get done. The interesting thing about life, guys, is that, and I've seen this over the years, and this is really a lot more what I hear from my students and from what I've experienced. The more you pay attention to a person, the more you try to do things for a person, if it's not normal behavior and it's over-the-top type behavior, that person will withdraw. It's almost like a psychological impediment, because what you're doing is telling the person that I'm not good enough at who I am. I have to go ahead and try to please you any way I can. And this becomes like simp behavior and beta behavior. And people and women, they detest this. You know, they may end up, if they've hit the wall, they may end up marrying somebody like this, but they really don't respect that person. And you only get respect if you act the normal way, which means you're not going to be groveling at their feet all the time. You're not going to be putting them on a pedestal. You're not going to try to do everything because you're afraid of losing them. Guys, it's almost like the idea of the cage. You put a bird in the cage and try to hold it. The bird doesn't care about anything but getting out. You let the bird go out, and if you treated them well, they'll come back. They'll fly back. But you want women, in this case men, you want women to chase you. You want them to come back to you. Then you know that that person's interested. If they don't do that, then they're not interested. And all the other stuff they're telling you will be signs of miscommunication. And the thing you need to do is kind of focus on making sure you understand that. Because when it comes to, you know, people talking with you, paying attention to you, if you show them that you have your own life, they're more willing to come and chase you. Because you're a challenge. You're more of a challenge this way. But if you're not a challenge, and you're not mysterious, and you're not doing those type of things to make other people interested in you, they're going to ignore you. They're going to go on to somebody else. They're going to find that exciting person. You became boring, because now people can predict everything you're doing. And I'm not saying not being nice to people. I'm not saying that at all, because I'm nice to people all the time. But if you're nice to the simple level, and you're nice because, not because you want to be nice, but because you feel like you have to in order to keep the person, well, then you've lost that relationship. Because that person now disrespects you. They don't like you. They don't have respect for you. And eventually they're going to criticize you and do all kinds of things. And you got to stand still. You got to stand tall and not put up with it. So I mean by ignoring, I mean, and it doesn't matter how long you've been in a relationship with somebody, you've always got to continue to have this in the back of your mind. If that person does something that you do not like, you have to use a strategy that I call ignoring. And that means you got to go away for a little while, right? And depending on the situation, you have to kind of determine whether or not it's for a short period of time or a few days or what it may be. If you're married, obviously, you know, you want to work situations out, but you still need to put your foot down and give people the message that this is not acceptable. Now, hopefully it won't take more than a few days, but I've seen couples that haven't talked for a week or so, 2 weeks. And they eventually kind of make, but that also gives these people both an idea that they're serious and they're not going to be fooled around with. And I don't care if you're married or not, you never should be put in a position where people think they can walk over you. So if you're dating somebody, or if you're thinking about a date, and the one time you call the person, they kind of, you know, they want to go, and all of a sudden they flake out on you, you may say to them, look, you have one chance. The next time, that's it. And if they do it again, then you just ignore them. The strength of ignoring them now is that that person begins to look at you as a more high value person. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've done this in the past, and people, women, men, they come back and they say, okay, sorry, sir, or sorry, and they have respect for you. And people will have respect for you anyway on this purpose, because once you're on retention, all of a sudden people sense that you're controlling yourself and that you're a man, in my case, a man to be reckoned with. And I think that's what you really want to be, a strong, virile man. We are lacking in it so much these days, guys, and women tell me they need this, but they can't find it, so they put up with nonsense because they realize that the person is not somebody who is of high value. And high value doesn't mean you're just chasing, women around and being, led by the nose, just because you want to have some intimacy. And that's the problem, my friends. If you control that level, your level of that, then all of a sudden you're in much better control of the situation. And now you can do the things we talked about before, like walking away, ignoring the situation, not putting up with the nonsense, right? And if somebody's playing games with you, now you can just take a step back and say, I'm not going to put up with that. I'm not going to be treated like that. And I think you have to always be in that mindset to do that and be able to recognize that you should not have to put up with that kind of stuff. And I think that's the key. So, ignoring people can be really a strong way to communicate, especially if you're trying to set the message that, don't treat me in this manner. And don't, flake out at me and ghost me and things like that. Now, eventually what's going to happen, one or two things. Either the person decides, okay, this is done and we're not going to focus on it anymore, which is to your benefit because you're not wasting any more of your time and your energy, of course. But then the other thing is that that person may come back to you. Now, when people come back to you, you have to understand you're still dealing with a person who really is, who's capable of those other types of things, almost like cheating. They're capable of doing that. So the question then becomes, how do you make sure they're just focusing on you? Well, you do that by basically kind of making sure that you're not always accessible. You get a text message, you're not responding 2 seconds later because you're afraid that the person's going to be mad if you don't respond. You're not responding, you're not doing stuff because the person tells you to do things. You're doing things because you want to do things, you want to get things cleaned up, or you want to fix things. But doesn't mean you have to do those things. That's the big question. If you're doing it because you really want to help somebody, that's wonderful. I'm all for that. But if you're doing something because you're afraid of it, afraid of losing somebody, that's in a bad position you're in, my friends. That is not a warrior position you want to be in. You want to be the strong warrior, the person who's the head of the table, who's the person who's making decisions, living their own life, and showing that sort of communication to say that, you're either going to play in my ballpark or you're not playing at all. And I think that draws a lot of people to you, and you have to be very vigilant and strong on keeping that way, because that's really crucial for your success. All right, guys, so once again, hope you guys enjoyed the information, got something out of it. Until next time, my friends, battle on.